name's Romy, Cassie Baby's over here, Mishka Baby's over here, and I watched a queer film every week for a year. So, I'm queer. Spoiler alert, in case you didn't know. And I am really passionate about finding books and films and media and content that is queer, because there's not enough, and growing up there was hardly anything, and just because it's queer, it doesn't mean it's good representation. We're gonna see a lot of that, guys! In Pride 2022, I was thinking about how I wanted to see more and find more and actively work towards watching the content that is important to me and finding out what's beautiful and hopefully not finding out too much of what's terrible. Spoiler alert, we found a lot of really bad films, guys, please! So I dedicated myself to watching a LGBTIQA+ film every week for a year. And I did it! On Sunday I watched my last film and it felt weird. For a year, I have been watching a queer film every single week. And sometimes we cut it pretty fine. I think, you know, finishing a film on a Sunday at 11:30, it happened. But I did not miss a single week, and I also decided I wanted to review them both on Letterbox and on my blog. I got really behind with the reviews on my blog, so I haven't even written the last 5, I think, and my blog is already scheduled up to September this year. So if you are interested at all in seeing shorter versions of the reviews I write, I'm pretty hilarious on Letterboxd, guys. And if you want to have bigger reviews of the films I talk about here, you can follow me on my blog. I made a rule that all of the films I watched for the 52 had to be new to me. I'd never watched them before. I could have heard about them, I could really want to watch them, but I never watched them before. Because I'm me, and because it was such an interesting project, and because I loved finding the joy, I've kind of decided I'm doing it for another year. This was called the 52, so now I'm starting the 52 too. So let's talk about the best of what I watched and the worst of what I watched. It's 52 queer films. Some of them were really, really beautiful. Alright, first of all, the first film I watched for the 52 was Summerland. Summerland is a lesbian film, and it stars Gemma Arterton as a cute little, very angry lesbian. Summerland was weird. There's a lot of complex things that happened in there, like lies, betrayal, I love you and I'm a lesbian, but I want to have a baby, so I'm marrying a man. He's dead now, it's fine, let's be together. And the last film for the 52, which I watched on Sunday, was Nimona. I adore the graphic novel Nimona. I've read it so many times and it's so beautiful, and I was really excited to see that come to life, and I knew that the film didn't erase the queer identity, it maybe even made it bigger, and I was a little afraid that it would just be so subtle and it wouldn't live up to my hopes, but it was really queer. But I didn't love it. It was really chaotic, and I want to watch it again, but it just wasn't the story that I had grown to love and that had been so important to me. I really liked seeing Ballister and Golden Loin's relationship, and I think it's so important and so wonderful that we got that on-screen kiss, but it wasn't the story that I had loved for so long, and I didn't know it wasn't going to be. So maybe if I had some forewarning going into it, maybe if I had known that it would be a different story, it would have been better, but I just didn't like it as much as the story that I love. Oh my god, no, don't make me remember that. Alright, because it's funny, we're going to start with some of the worst films that I saw. There were many films that I really didn't like, but apparently I've been kinder in my rating than I ought to have been, and only 2 films got half a star. One of them was Room in Rome, which is just a male fantasy. It's just It's just a male lesbian fantasy. And that was something that I noticed, especially with lesbian films, in that most of them were directed by men and they didn't know how to do a sex scene with women that wasn't just for the male gaze, and that was really, really disappointing, and it just became glaringly obvious with each film that I watched that there was one reason it was being done, and it was just to get a couple of sex scenes in there, and there was helicoptering in the bathtub. And the other film that also got a half star was Happy Ending, which is a film about a couple who want to have a third, and then heaps of cheating happens, and the main character, Luna, is just the worst. She is a terrible, terrible person who does not know how to communicate and lies to her partner and cheats, and I hated it. It was... Some notably terrible or very flawed watches were Victor/Victoria from 1982, starring Julie Andrews. I was so excited because Julie Andrews is like such a gay icon and I love her, and seeing that she'd actually been in a film where she's a drag king. So Julie Andrews plays Victoria, who she doesn't have any money and she's willing to do literally anything just so she can eat some bread. She decides to be a drag king, but she lives as a drag king, Victor. What's this drag king do for work? He's a drag queen! So we have Victoria living as Victor, working as a drag queen, and I love Julie Andrews, but this film was not it. Victor's main thing was that, you know, he would just do this with his hair all the time. And he's got really slicked hair, so he just constantly... And then the love interest is this guy who's like, no, I won't be gay. I won't be gay. I love him, but I won't be gay. And Julie Andrews is like, oh, I will do anything to be able to eat. But he's a pretty boy. I want to live as a woman again. I want to kiss the pretty boy. She's willing to give up everything to be Victor and then instantly give up everything to get this man into bed. Another terrible film was Daphne, which is about Daphne du Maurier, and it was the drabbest. It was so boring. It starts off with a kill you gaze right at the beginning, and it was dreadful. Oh, and Daphne also has this thing where she's like, I'm not a lesbian, I'm not queer. I'm just of the Venetian persuasion, which apparently is like a real thing that the du Mauriers, they wouldn't say like lesbian, but they'd say the Venetian persuasion. They could have really gone into Daphne's internalized homophobia and her internalized transphobia, because she references herself as inside her is a boy who loves a girl, and she really, really dislikes her femininity and rails against the idea of being a lesbian because she thinks of herself as a man, but that's never gone into because that would be too difficult. Then there was The Boys in the Band, which I hated. I hated the story. The acting was like stunning, but the film was awful. It was absolutely dreadful. So this is a film about like a bunch of gay men who have been friends for years and years, but I don't know why they've been friends because they all hate each other. All but like two of them are just terrible, terrible people who are dreadful and awful and need better friends and need to treat themselves and each other better, and it just... oh, it's awful. They're horrible to each other and the most vile things, and like this vicious, horrible friendship that just was appalling to watch. And the acting, like Jim Parsons, absolutely outstanding, but I hated him in it. And I never actually watched him in something where I liked his character. He tends to play these kind of vicious, cruel characters, and he does it really, really well, but it means I don't want to watch him in anything. I hated it. I don't want to watch a film about awful, awful people doing awful, awful things and just, viciously cruel. Hated it. Hated it. I think, ugh. Another film was Nivio Olimpo, which is an Italian film. This is the funniest thing I've ever seen. The greatest joy I got from this film, which is the reason I gave it 2 stars, is that the day after watching it, I got to sit down with my mum, and half an hour later, I had given her the whole wacky plotline. So it's this film about these 2 guys who meet each other and then basically spend the rest of their lives still being in love with the person they spent 2 days with lots of like smash cut 10 years later with no explanation. And they use the same 2 actors for all of the ages, and I think it spans like 40 years or something, so they make them look really strange in the beginning when they're meant to be super young, and then they make them look really strange in the end when they put like grey spray paint in there. This is an amazing film to watch and then like sit your friends down and tell them the whole thing, because like it's wild. It's like I've got a blindfold on because my eyes are injured, and could you be the love of my life? No, you mustn't be. And then we have this romantic encounter where we put jam in each other's mouths. I'm gonna make a of it, but it's not gonna be. It's gonna be this amazingly critically acclaimed film that men will take their girlfriends to, and they will watch this explicit gay film in like 80s in Italy, and everyone will applaud, and it'll be about me. I hated the jam scene, and then like watching the jam scene where these men stuff their fingers into each other's mouths covered in dripping jam, to watch that was too much. And then they recreate it in the film that he makes, and you have to watch him show actors how to do it, and it was not nice. And the last film that I specifically hated was Call Me By Your Name, which I did not expect to hate, and it made me so mad, and I was really disgusted and angered by how much people romanticize this relationship between Elio and Oliver, when Oliver is a terrible, despicable person who is just grooming Elio and is emotionally abusive and manipulative and just like this disgusting, awful person. But it's shown as true love, first love, aren't they perfect? No, Oliver is a terrible, terrible person. And I didn't know it was Armie Hammer, and I don't want to watch films with Armie Hammer in them personally, but I had already decided to watch Call Me By Your Name, that it was a really important film for me to watch for this series. And it was so sad, and Elio is a child, and he's groomed and he's manipulated, and I have only ever seen people say that, like, I dream of a love like that. That is not love! That is not love! That is manipulation, and he knows exactly what he's doing, and love is not at the root of it. It is control, and I hated it. And honestly, even though it's not the lowest rated of all of these films, if there was one film that I had to choose to never watch again, it would be The Boys in the Band, because it was just so viscerally painful to watch. Like, it was well done, but I don't know why you would want to make a film just about dreadful people being dreadful, and I never want to watch it again. It made me really sad. It made me really sad. And that's probably on par with Call Me By Your Name, because I do not want to watch that again. I really, really hated it. And, you know, beautiful music, beautiful filmography, but never want to watch those 2 again. They're not inherently bad films, but they were not good experiences. So they're not the worst on the list ratings-wise, but I would never want to watch them again. And now into films that I liked! Ellie and Abby and Ellie's Dead Aunt was so beautiful. It was one of the first movies that I watched for the 52, and it was the first one that really like sparked joy in my soul. Ellie's Dead Aunt is her lesbian aunt who literally comes back to guide her lesbian niece through her first love. You've got prom, you've got horse girl, you've got like flirting in detention, and Uncle Frank, which is so beautiful, and I don't know why it has such a strong rating. The interesting thing was I watched it on Amazon Prime, and they blurred out the word gay. It was like G***, you couldn't say gay, but a word meaning a bundle of sticks or a slur in the queer community was used, and that was just spelt out all the time in the subtitles, which felt like a little bit of a weird choice to me. I think maybe someone needs to go and have a look at the subtitles and why you're censoring words in your subtitles is weird, Prime. But Uncle Frank is such a beautiful film and so heartbreaking and so well done, and it was really emotional, and it's a very heavy film, but it was just gorgeous. It was so beautiful and so powerful. You can tell it's going to be like really bloody emotional, but it's absolutely gorgeous. But I'm a Cheerleader, iconic. I think RuPaul was in like 3 of these films. So RuPaul was in this as a camp counselor who was cured from being straight. No, that's not right. To Wong Fu, thanks for everything, Juliana Ma. Patrick Swayze! This film, I have loved Patrick Swayze for so many years, and to find out that he plays a drag queen in a film, and this film honoured drag queens. It wasn't, let's make fun of the queer community that you will find in a lot of queer films. It was beautiful. It was really beautiful, and it made me really happy, and I'm really looking forward to watching it again. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Men acting like women. Men wanting to be with one another. Men touching each other. Bohemian Rhapsody is one of my highest rated films for the 52, but in retrospect, it definitely shouldn't be. I have really, really complex feelings about this one, and it was quite a difficult one to review because putting those feelings into words was not easy. Basically, I really wish that it had been about a fictional rock star and not about Freddie Mercury, because telling this story when he's not here to give a voice to himself, where it is seen purely through the eyes of people around him, felt really, really wrong. And as a fictional story, it's beautiful. But when you think about the fact that it's about somebody and that they are not honouring somebody by telling a story this way, it becomes a very different watch. Then we have Marry My Dead Body, which is definitely in my top 3 for the 52. It was so good. It's such a weird film. It's wacky. It's kitsch. It's fruity as all hell. It's about a gay guy who died and the homophobic police officer who accidentally kind of is roped into marrying him and then agrees to marry his ghost, and then they have to basically save the world and fight crime bosses. And I would never have thought that I would like a film where the main character is homophobic, but we see a journey of understanding and small-mindedness not being acceptable, and you know, literally everyone in the police force is like, dude, that's embarrassing, you're homophobic. And a ghost that literally is like, you know what? You're gonna say slurs at me? I'm gonna take over your body, strip off, and pole dance in the street, naked. It's amazing. It's so funny. I love it. And finally, my highest rated film for the 52, the only film that got 5 out of 5 stars, is Dating Amber. This film, I watched this just before Christmas. I was wrapping Christmas presents, and there was this moment like 5 minutes before the end where I just paused, and I think I even went back and like rewatched those last few minutes because it felt like the world froze. And the moments where you're reading something or you're listening to something or you're watching something and everything else just kind of fades away, and you feel like you were at the center of something, or you're getting to watch something or experience something that is truly phenomenal and so meaningful. This film. I really want to rewatch it right now. It's so special and so strong and powerful, and I really, really loved the relationship that grew, and it's the best of the best. I really loved it. I don't even know how to describe it. It made me so happy, and it was just outstanding. And I would say that Dating Amber and Marry My Dead Body were my favourite 2 films of the 52. They were my favourite 2 films of the whole lot of them. Out of 50 films, they were the 2 that I loved the most, and I'm really looking forward to watching them again. So that was the 52. I watched a LGBTIQA+ film every week for a year, and I reviewed them as well. Like I said, there's links in the bio to find the short versions of my reviews, the little punchy, pam, pam, wow, let's have like a sentence and it's gonna change the world with a review. Or you can have like the long, let's really go into how wacky this film is. I have a puppy now in my lap and a kitty now on my lap. And yeah, I'm about to do this again for another year. What is your favourite queer film? Please give me recommendations. I've got 52 spots to fill. I've got less than that because there were a couple that I weren't able to do, but now I have to make a new list. I've got a lot of queer films that I really want to see, but I've got a lot that I probably don't even know about, so please recommend them. I want all of the recommendations. I really try not to just watch gay films or lesbian films. I want to be watching films about all sexualities, not just maybe the sexualities that it's popular to make films about. And please give me lesbian recommendations that aren't made for the male gaze, because I am sick and tired of men putting lesbians in films and making us think, oh, we're gonna have a great film, and then it's just a